All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Mother's Justice Show right here on KKNW 1150 AM. I'm your host, Omari Salisbury. Known on the streets as the Big O, filling in for my mama, the Reverend Harriet Walden. We got a fantastic show on tap for you today. What our guest this week, Alicia Crank. What's happening?
Hi, Omari. Good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you, too. I guess welcome back here to the Hubbard Radio Studios.
Yeah.
Here in Bellevue. Man, I got a lot of stuff to talk to you about. One big thing, of course, is leadership, black leadership in traditionally white spaces.
Right.
I would say something like that.
Yeah.
I know there's all kinds of more poetic ways to say that,
but it is what it is.
But before we get into that, I want to read a little bit about you, and there's a few other things I want to talk to you about. There's the World Cup going on.
Yes.
And you talked about you were just there at the Professional Women's Hockey League draft.
Yep.
All that kind of good stuff. But Alicia Crank is the connector-in-chief at Cranked Up Consulting, where she has spent over a decade supporting entrepreneurs and nonprofits through fundraising and leadership development. Her extensive career spans leadership roles in both for-profit and nonprofit sectors. Currently as Senior Manager of Corporate and Institutional Philanthropy at Seattle Opera, hello, with a dedicated focus on building resilient, inclusive communities. Alicia, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me to come.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You know, this is, like I said, this is my mama's show.
Okay.
My mama's much better at this whole media thing than me. And this show, so we're trying to pin it down. This show's like a decade, man. This show is older than Converge.
Well, there you go.
And actually, let me tell you, I'll put you in on something, right? When I moved back from overseas, I spent a whole career in media and TV, launched a TV station in Dubai and radio stations in Zanzibar, all kinds of stuff. I thought I was going to come back home and get a job in media, and be on my way. But, man, I couldn't even get an interview. And my mom would bring me out here with her every Monday to her radio show, so I would stay encouraged in wanting to pursue a career here in media. So
Mother knows best.
Yes, she does, and mom's also listening. So hey, mom.
Hey, mom. All
right, so man, the big news of today, keeping it right here in this moment, is today the USA plays Belgium here in a few hours. Now, for people who don't know, because it wasn't in your intro, you're a sports junkie.
Yes.
and I know you've been all over this World Cup thing, man. So, how is the World Cup going here in Seattle in your perspective? And also, too, maybe some insight on the game today.
It's been wonderful. It's exceeded my expectations. Being on the Seattle Sports Commission for the past 3-something years now, it's really given me a lot of insight into how these things come together. They don't just pick a city and say, okay, we're going to do it. They send out these RFPs that talks about, what's security going to look like? What is the community value going to be like? Who are you going to invite out? What's the safety protocols? And I think there was a lot of concern about Seattle being unsafe through numerous other alternate media outlets. But that has not been the case. And to see that so many people have shown up and shown out, and we've had national media say that Seattle's been the best, FIFA city this go round that they've seen. We've just showing up, and I love it. It's been safe. There's been no major issues, especially during Pride weekend. And, I'm looking forward to today, and go Team USA.
All right. Yeah, good stuff. For sure, Seattle's been dragged through the mud, the dirt, you know what I'm saying, the funk. by all, it's really weird that one way or another, man, but it's just the nature of the city, I guess, is that you got, the far right saying one thing, the far left also saying another thing. And then what Eric said on the right over here, he said, but then we got a lot of people who are just taking a chance and being in the moment.
And that's the majority.
Yeah, and
I agree with that.
If you tell, listen, I got to do nothing but give the Emerald City props. And you go back to the Pride weekend, you go the week before that, Juneteenth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this has been an outstanding experience. And people know me as one to tell the truth.
Yeah. And I'm going to say just a slight tangent to that. Yesterday, I was down in Seattle Center specifically for the first annual Seattle Classical Music Festival. And of course, Seattle Opera was a part of that. So I just kind of went down as a spectator. I wasn't necessarily working. But of course, right across the way is the watch party in the Armory at Seattle Center. And it was so cool to see so many walks of life between those two events and even going back and forth across those. So knowing that they were both free to attend and you had just a smorgasbord of different cultures kind of enjoying both events, I think that's what we want to see on a daily basis. So I'm so happy that we invested that way.
Seattle is dope. And, we've been saying that. You'll never find me on tape somewhere being like, oh, the city is whatever. Man, we got our problems just like
everybody.
Like anybody else. But it's like whenever somebody can 24/7 be like how horrible our city is, something wrong with them. I be wanting to give them a hug.
I think there are people that are just determined to be negative, whatever. Like that's that fuels them for whatever reason. And I just stay away from that. It's like, why?
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, also in the news update here, you went to Seattle Opera now. And
yes.
Let people know that the Seattle Opera has been a big supporter of Converge Media, where I call home, for many, many years. We've done a lot of cool projects with them. We've done behind the scenes. We've done panels. The opera singers are a fixture in the Black Media Matters studios. But what was it about the Seattle Opera that made you say, hey, I want to be part of this organization?
I just needed to have some fun in my life. I think I've been in a lot of leadership roles, either as the head of Philanthropy or as an ED at a handful of different organizations in Greater Seattle. And just with some of the funding issues coming government level down, it's been hella stressful. Can I say that? It was stressful.
Yeah, and we'll leave that kind of there.
It was,
okay.
But it was stressful. And, when I decided that I've hit a certain age where I don't have to live that way and that I can try to find joy and also trying to do the work of trying to help other people across the community, the Seattle Opera just was a natural place for me to land. And I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, and you make sure, I'll send this audio clip too, but I tell people this all the time, the Seattle Opera is one of our biggest supporters at Converge Media. And I'm really proud to say that because some people coming out of 2020, the arts was intentional.
Yes.
And the arts is the only people where the wind didn't blow a different direction.
Yeah.
And so big shout out to Seattle Opera, Christina, all these guys out there.
Yes.
I mean, the exceptional job that they do. And also right across the hall, Pacific Northwest Ballet.
Yes.
It's another one, man, who they've been consistent. They've kept their word. And, people sometimes see me with the frowned up boo-boo face when I'm moving around Seattle because it's so disappointing to go out in the boardroom after boardroom. And now, you know what I'm saying? It's the same people, the same company, but, their commitment and the words that they said are meaningless. Yeah. And so, knowing that the Seattle Opera is there standing on business is meaningful.
Thank you for sharing that. I'll make sure to take that back to the crew as well.
Yeah. All right. And another thing here is, man, you're a content creator. like what don't you do? You're a content creator. You were in Las Vegas at the professional.
I was in Detroit for that.
In Detroit. Okay, you went home to Detroit for the Professional Women's Hockey League's draft.
Yes.
And Seattle has a team, the Torrent, which you're a big supporter of.
Yes.
And so then what happened there at the draft?
It was so cool. I decided I was going to go because it was happening in Detroit. I'm from Detroit. I'm from Hockey Town. And going back to something that you said about how some people want to portray Seattle as a negative, I was so impressed by my hometown. I had not really spent any time in downtown Detroit in maybe the last 15 years. And when I walked out that morning from the airport and getting off the bus to get to my hotel, I saw pride flags everywhere. I saw, pedestrian walkways in downtown Detroit. There were dog parks. That never happened before. But again, there was someone that sent a question to a local newscaster recently saying, is Seattle becoming Detroit? And they're thinking Detroit 1980s, 1990s. Right. And I did a couple of videos when I was there and saying, you know what? Let me show you what I see when I'm here in downtown Detroit. And I said, so I hope Seattle becomes Detroit in that sense. But the draft was great. I was kind of the only Seattle media there, which was pretty fun for me to be because I got to go to the closed events as in addition to the draft. And I got to sit in the press room during the draft. So I got to ask questions of those that had been drafted as they were going down the pipeline. And it was really amazing. I got to ask questions of most of the 6 that were chosen by us, by the Torrent. But I also got to interview a few other players, including one named Caitlin Brown. She's a Black player, and she was one of 3 that was drafted that night, and she was drafted by the New York Sirens. And by the time she was drafted, most of the media had disappeared because it was later in the day. But I was getting ready to leave, and I saw her walk in, and I was the only other Black person in the room. So I said, I'm going to stay. Even though I hadn't done any research on her, so I didn't have any questions for her per se. But she got some general questions, but nothing that asked her about who she was. So that's what I did. I said, I'm from Detroit. I said, I'm a hockey fan, but I haven't seen players that look like you. And I said, tell me your trajectory. Tell me how you got here. And she told it. And that question ended up getting picked up by ESPN and ESPNW.
Wow.
And I didn't plan that. I just wanted to be in solidarity with her and just be like, I see you.
Look at you.
But but it was amazing. Huh? Right. So I know what it's like to show up in a room and in spaces where you're the only one there.
I've been there. We Zachariah Wisdom, the Seattle Kraken's first Black draft pick.
Yeah.
And we were at we did it. His very first interview he ever did was with Converge.
Mm-hmm.
He came out here to Seattle, and we had so much fun actually with his name.
Yeah.
Wise choice. But yeah, I know that feeling because as somebody who doesn't really know a lot about hockey,
mm-hmm.
To be there and just to be able to meet the moment with this young man.
Yeah.
And, that's history. He'll always be the Seattle Kraken's very first Black draft pick.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that part of it. And I show up in these spaces because why not? Sometimes I just ask the question and they can either say no or they can say, okay, here's your media pass. So that's what I was able to do. And I always try to do these types of content videos from the interpersonal level. There's a ton of people better than me that know stats and figures and stuff like that. I want to talk about the person. That's
like a lot of our storytelling around sports. It's a lot of people. That's why you even saw like Swingman.
Yes.
The MLB could definitely tell the story on the field better than Converge. Mm-hmm. But the actual story in the stands and what's happening around the game
and it was one of your stories that led me to go and get the Steelheads jersey.
Yeah, come on.
So I got it.
By the way, our Steelheads won yesterday.
Yes, they did.
we were there in the game. At the game, and I went with both of my brothers.
I saw that on social.
Yeah, and we had a great time. And whenever it's sunny and the roof is open and the Steelheads play, I believe they're undefeated. They've only lost on like cloudy days.
Okay,
when the roof
so now
is
we
closed.
know.
Yeah, so now we know. All right, is there anything else that you've been up to before we go to commercial break? And when we come back, we got all these heavy topics to talk about.
Oh, wow. I would say so here's a breaking news. So talking about content creation and supporting women's sports. Flavor Flav is doing this event called She Weekend in Vegas from the 16th and the 19th of this month. And it was announced back in February after the Winter Olympics where the women teams did not get as much shine as the men's teams did. So he said, hey, we're going to celebrate you here. Didn't know the plan, just knew it was going to happen this time frame. I'm like, I'm going. And so I've been following it, doing all these other things. And then finally I was able to get connected to someone that's helping to plan it. And I was asked to be one of only 5 content creators to officially be there as part of She Weekend. So I'm very, very excited that I got selected for that.
All right, look at you. I said, man, what don't you do? You do it all. Hey, all right, we're talking to Alicia Crank. I said the connector in chief at Cranked Up Consulting. We got a great show on tap for you. We're going to take our first break right now. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community.
Wherever you go, Alternative Talk 1150 is here for you.
All right, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show right here on 1150 AM KKNW. I am your host, the Big O, joined today with Alicia Crank.
Hi again.
Yeah. All right, Alicia. Man, you have, and maybe we can give our listeners a little bit more. We talked about you currently, but we talk about some of your other like leadership positions. You know, the focus of today's show is the risk and rewards of Black leaders in white spaces. Yes. Right. And so we got to give the listeners some receipts of your leadership prior. Yes. So you're not just somebody who just popped up on here like, yeah, let me tell you something. I know this and that. So before we dive into that, though, maybe you can give our listeners, some of your leadership journey.
Sure. So, yeah, I actually went to school, high school and college for broadcast and cinematic arts. I just didn't turn it into a career. But my first job, white collar job, was in corporate banking at a company called Comerica. And that ended up being the first 10 years of my career. And again, I was the only person that looked like me, the only Black person, and let alone the only Black female that was part of the institutional trust division. And, working on, trading money markets and doing all these treasury management things. And so I would say this has just kind of followed me through all of my career, always kind of being either the first or the only person to look like me to be in these different spaces. So, imagine this 20-something person who's been in her career for 5 or 6 years, and her job is to trade anywhere between $1 million and $100 million on a daily basis. It was just unheard of. Everyone would say, "Oh, you must be a teller." I'm like, "No, I am not." There's nothing wrong with being a teller, but that was just the mentality that people would have to say, "Oh, if you work at the bank, you're on the first floor as a teller. You're not management. You're not the person that's making big moves." And that happened to me in Michigan. It happened to me when I was living in California, and then even segueing over into nonprofit world, where I've been an executive director twice now. Again, the only person of color, the only Black person to hold those roles at those particular organizations, and trying to navigate those things each time, navigating what people's perceptions were. She's the diversity hire, that she didn't have the actual experience. And then when I come with the receipts, as you say, and I'll tell you, there was one role that I had where I took over for another person. And the first thing I did was I read contracts. I read MOUs. And being 10 years in institutional trust, that's what you learn to do. So I always do that. And this one particular organization, every time I kept bringing up, hey, what you're saying that you're allowed to do is not in the MOU. And 3 different times, the last one from the CFO of this other organization said, "You read the contract?" And I'm like, why is that the first question that's coming out of people's mouths? Am I not supposed to? Am I just supposed to just take things at face value? Leadership means having to make uncomfortable decisions. And it also means reading through everything you need to know so that you're doing what you're supposed to do and getting rid of the things that you're not supposed to. So it's been an interesting journey. And also even being a nonprofit and being in the corporate philanthropy space, you don't see a lot of Black people in corporate philanthropy, meaning
out here,
period. Unless you're in a large, I would say maybe a Detroit or Chicago, maybe. But especially here, even down in the Bay Area, lots of women of color and men of color in the individual giving spaces, but not corporate. And it is a different animal because it's not so interpersonal as in you're trying to tug at the heartstrings of a person. You're looking at the parameters of a company. And do you qualify for sponsorship or donations or partnership that makes sense with what their model is? So it takes a lot of making sure that you understand the business side of what those organizations do and how do you match make it to become a nonprofit that they would want to support. But otherwise, I would just say that it's always a question of coming in and going, why is she here? She's a diversity pick. Does she really know what she's doing? But then the flip side is that they learn that, but then you can still get opposition because they want you to change that. They want you to do something different and do what they want you to do, as opposed to doing what's right for the organization.
All right, and so I guess that brings us here to our title today, The Risk and Rewards of Black Leaders in White Spaces. And before I jump into that, though, I mean, along with the jump, is like, I mean, some spaces, there's spaces, but like some of these white spaces that you jump into, it's like these are spaces you want to go to.
Yeah. I do want to because
knowing okay.
I turned it from, I have this phrase that I use when I do certain presentations and speaking opportunities. It's called turning obstacles into opportunities. And I'm like, okay, it's an obstacle to go into these spaces knowing that you're going to have this set of opposition. But I'm like, well, then what is the opportunity I can make out of that?
That's a lot of math. I mean, I only say that, right, to say that like some things that like government, for example, it's like, oh no, man, you know, we need representation there in government. Our needs, you know, these are elected officials or tax dollars going somewhere and everything else. But when you talk about like maybe private organizations or nonprofits or things like that are already like, you know, very white. That, you know, I mean, I'm just saying,
it's true.
Being the devil's advocate, somebody might be like, well, why are you even dealing with that?
Because we need to, for us to be a part of that, someone's got to step in first, or at least make sure that that's a place we want to be in. And trust me, there are places where I've walked away, where I said, you know what, I'm not doing this. And I'll even talk about politics for a second, is that I got to the point, and I've run several times, and I've learned something from each of them. So they actually contributed to my growth in my career. So I don't necessarily see them as complete losses. But I started to see things the higher I got up to go, what you see this politician says on television versus what happens in his actual office. Oh, yeah. Two completely different things. And when you're the one that, when they're asking you to compromise so that they can look good, heck no.
Listen, it's the reason you ain't never see me on no campaign. Even my brother had a campaign. I ain't even.
Yeah, I was like, I ain't, you know, and again, and I tell you, I went to a political fundraiser last week in Edmonds, and I hadn't gone in over 2 years. I had just kind of taken myself out. But the reason I went is because, and it relates to something we talked about earlier, is that one of the it was a 4-candidate event, and one of the candidates was actually Jamila Taylor.
Oh, okay.
So she came up from
state legislator.
Yes. So she came up from, South Seattle up to Edmonds for this event. And when I learned that she was coming, I was like, first, I hadn't seen her since her illness. And second was, I didn't want her to be the only Black person in the room. And when I got there, I'm glad I was there because she would have been the only Black person in the room. So there are times where that happens.
No, I get it. And we're going to get into it. And it's like somebody else on the other side, because I know you like healthy conversation and debate, might be like, well, man, you know what? You Black people only make up 3% or 7%. And so, this is it's your representation is represented in, I hear people tell me that, by the way.
No, it's true. But I think there's reasons why that happens, right? And who's to say that the 3% representation can't make something major happen that benefits not only that community but others.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So, first question is, what are the risks and rewards? And you spoke a little bit about this for Black folk showing up and taking leadership in spaces traditionally not designed for us.
I think some of the risks are knowing that you're kind of going in there solo, so you don't necessarily have a built-in support system to help you guide through that process. It might make you question your abilities and your experience because you have people looking at you like, why is this person here? And I think there's also a risk of, again, self-doubt and going, should I be here? Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm not professional enough. Maybe I don't have enough experience. Well, we all know that there are people in leadership positions right now that are not Black, that have no experience, but they go in with gusto. But yet we allow ourselves to second guess our abilities at times when you're walking into those spaces as the first or the only. I think the rewards, at least they have been for me, is one, having folks like you and others be like, hey, I'm not in this space, but I know somebody who is, and she'll tell me what's really going on and see how, if we even need to make a way into being partners or being a part of those conversations. I think the other reward too is, as I get older, I'm hoping that the generation or two behind me go, well, if she could do it, now I can do it. And that's my goal, is that I want to see more people coming up these ranks, knowing that at least one person went through it and can potentially give guidance or advice around it. But I would never tell someone not to do something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't tell nobody. I've been a first for a long time, man.
Yeah.
Because my mom, she put us anywhere in all kinds of situations. She was like, no, you just need to go do this. So,
but it brings interesting opportunities. I'll take the opera, for example.
Okay. I've actually got a question for opera.
Oh, okay. Was it about Janae?
Yeah. And
okay.
So I'll get right
okay.
to it. I can see it. It's next up.
Okay.
But I guess where I'm at is that I think I've reached a point. See, you got all this energy. It's amazing. I've reached a point where I'm tired of. It's fatigue.
Yes.
I'm tired of being. You know how many people ask me to serve on this board or do this, man? I'm the only thing I'm a member of is the SABJ, Seattle Association of Black Journalists. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's it. Because oftentimes, I mean, and the crazy thing is, a lot of times they're coming from a good place. Right. They're like, man, your perspective is important. It'd be good to get your point of view. And it's just, but man, you'd be tired of just being the Black guy who's giving the Black perspective, this and that. I remember it was years ago, right? I used to work for Hoops TV and that was back when, like, more and more like Black VPs were getting hired in the NBA. That's almost 20 years ago now. Wow. And I remember, talking to some of those Black execs, and they were like, man, bro, I never just get to do my job. Because whenever they got an issue with a Black player, they want me to talk to them. Whenever it's this and that, Black, and so now you're the cultural guy for everything. And a lot of times when you join organizations, you're just like, hey, man, I'm just here to do membership. But because you're Black, they're like, oh, yeah, well, we just got this email that came in, and a Black person, it's like, that's not even my job.
Yes.
That's not even why I'm here.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Why am I being roped into now a PR issue or HR issue or something else like that? I was, and so then it's like, am I actually really here? My expertise as a storyteller, or am I actually here to give cover to the organization? And not in a malicious way. They weren't thinking that in the beginning. Yeah. But now I'm expected to give cover to an organization or this and that. And that's why you don't see Converge in a lot of stuff, because people will be like, well, no, actually, we work with Converge. And that's their stamp for being, ignorant or being whatever, and all those kind of situations. So I just want to give you some kudos for not being fatigued, fatigued as I am, and being able to show up in these spaces.
I'm going to tell you, I am fatigued. I have stepped away from a number of these types of obligations, going back to what I was saying initially about, I just want to have some fun now, right? I've done 20 plus years of being the first and only showing up in some of these spaces. To go, okay, ECU Ties, it's turn. I'm out. I need to go and do what I want to do now and do the job that I was hired to do, as opposed to also being the liaison for anything equity or anything like that.
Right. All right. Now, you had mentioned the opera there. Let me just ask you this then. In your journey in these spaces, how do you witness Black artists rising in predominantly white spaces? I know you probably have a story here about Janiyah Bridges over at the Seattle Opera.
Yeah, I will tell you of the many nonprofits I've been a part of in the past, both in California and in Washington State, this is the first one that's been arts focused. So one of the things that excited me about coming into this role was, yes, I have experience in corporate philanthropy and I can bring stuff to the table, but I also want to learn stuff. So I'm starting to learn more about the artist side of philanthropy and the people that are connected to it. And, you know, I got to the Seattle Opera right before Carmen was getting ready to be performed at the Seattle Opera. And they had two Carmens for the production, and one was Janiyah Bridges. And I sat in on an opera talk that we held at the Opera Center. And I was getting ready to leave, and someone said to her, she has a basketball background, as you might already know. And so she said one of her dreams one day was to be able to sing the national anthem at a Seattle Storm game. And one of my colleagues knew that I was on the sports commission. And so they messaged me the next day. They were like, hey, did you hear about this question? I was like, sure. And they're like, can you do something? And I was like, I mean, I could just make an ask. I can't promise anything's going to happen. But, you know, 48 hours later, she was booked and she got to sing the national anthem. I think she's the first maybe opera singer to do this at a Seattle Storm game at their home opener. And again, a lot of those things probably would not have happened if I hadn't stepped into being one of the few at the Sports Commission, being one of the few at the opera. But okay, these spaces that we might not necessarily have been looking for me to be at, I was able to take that and help somebody else and others to do something that they wanted to do. So being able to see Janiyah and how prolific she is, like I didn't really understand how significant her career has been.
She's a big deal.
She's huge. And I'm just like, but here's this woman who's performing here, and she's done a number of Seattle Opera performances. But to see her and say, hey, we're from Tacoma, you know, we're from Lake, you know, and even the closing night or the closing afternoon, her family had really brought Tacoma to the Seattle Opera and took over the whole thing and afterwards. And we're saying, we know we're in Seattle, but right now y'all are in Tacoma. And so being able to see artists have that level of power and influence, I think is being more accepted and being more open to seeing that happen now. So I'm just excited to see how many more artists are coming up, not only through opera, but any performing art where we're not used to seeing each other. But now I can say this person is now becoming the face of this type of artist or artistry. But the room is there. I think, again, but when you can look out and see one or two others that look like you or can at least relate to you, it makes it a bit easier.
Nah, I mean, that's true. Sometimes you be somewhere, you give them the head nod. I see you. All right, we're talking to Alicia Crank. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, the conversation continues. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show right here on 1150 AM, KKNW.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way. Being a Black homeowner in the Pacific Northwest comes with questions, and you don't have to find the answers alone. Black Homeowner Magazine is your trusted source for support, education, and community, helping you protect your home, your equity, and your generational legacy. Inside every issue, you'll find real stories, expert guidance, and local resources, all designed to keep Black homeowners informed, connected, and rooted right here in the Pacific Northwest. Because ownership is more than property, it's community. Black Homeowner Magazine, where ownership meets community. When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice.
Conversation you won't find on the rest of the dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hey, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show right here on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm your host, the Big O, joined today by Alicia Crank. And, man, we're having a conversation about Black folks in leadership positions showing up in traditionally white spaces.
Right.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting conversation. You know what I'm saying? All right, so one of the spaces that we don't show up to enough is, I think, everyday on the ground, either boards or policies or commissions in community. I saw that firsthand when 23rd and Union, one of the most controversial blocks in Seattle.
Yeah.
But when it came time for development for what's now Midtown Square and Liberty Bank Building and now Africatown Plaza, that was the first time I'd really seen our community pushed, show up to these meetings. We used to go to the meetings at the Presbyterian Church, and that's why Midtown Square now has images of Black people on it. And why the design, it was like, no, we can't just put a box here. This is tradition. This is one of the most important corners in the history of the Central District.
Right.
And so because community members were involved in that, we were able to see, firsthand what the outcomes are when you make your voice heard.
Right.
I only say that to say this is that these are the kind of spaces that you be showing. Like, we talk about big stuff like, oh, I was over here in sports conditions and opera, but you be on the ground level, right?
Yeah. When I moved to Edmonds in 2014, I knew I wanted to be involved in something, on some kind of board or commission. And I was on the Sister Cities Commission first. And then an opening happened on the Edmonds Planning Board. And I went to apply for it, even though there was an heir apparent.
And so for our listeners, what's a planning board? So
a planning board or a planning commission, each city or town has a similar group that comes together to weigh in and give advice and input to the governing bodies around land use and zoning within that city or within that district. And so I decided I wanted to do that. And I applied and I interviewed, not thinking I was going to get it, but I got it. And I got a lot of flack, actually, from some predominantly Black organizations. They're like, how come you're not on the diversity committee? I was like, why is that the only committee we can be on?
That's the worst committee to be on.
And I'm just like, why is that the default position? And I said, planning board is super important. And they kind of went back and forth with me on it for a bit until finally I said, do you support affordable housing? He said, yes. I said, do you support land use that would create opportunities for affordable housing? He said, yes. I said, where do you think that starts? And he just thought about it for a second. And I said, it's not when you go to city council and say, we want a petition like you were just talking about, which is still strong, but that's not the first step. The first step are those planning boards and commissions who set the table to say, this is where it needs to start. That way, when it's time for it to happen, it can just happen, as opposed to having to pause and work backwards and get the area rezoned because of that. And so minorities, all minorities, not just Black people, need to be in those spaces so that they can, one, be representative, and two, give real life feedback onto why something should or should not be zoned this way, or why a certain piece of land use should not go the way that it is.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, man. And I do know firsthand a lot of DEI stuff, man. That's where still a lot of stuff goes to die.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of great ideas and innovation and everything, because the mandate is just to check a box at the minimal level of investment to get these black folks off your back. And internally, most DEI in a company, organization, man, that doesn't benefit other black businesses, entrepreneurs, or anything. Ideally, they're just telling people, don't touch the black folks' hair.
Right.
You know, on Monday, don't be like, bro, did you see the game? Stuff like that. That don't translate into, what's crazy is, of all these years that's out here in Seattle, this DEI city and everything else, man, anything that's ever come to us from a big corporation in Seattle has never been the DEI. The DEI people love all of our stuff. Oh, it's amazing, this and that. But they ain't never sat us down. Here's marketing, here's sales, here's anything else. You know what I'm saying? And you go in there, it's like, man, when people were talking about this DEI scam, one, white women are the biggest beneficiary of all this DEI, right? But also, two, is like, man, I'm indifferent. We didn't see anything from DEI, a small black business. We didn't see any increase. So people in corporate America. And I'm glad that there's hopefully, a less hostile environment, a more understanding environment, and a more inclusive environment. And, I'm hopeful that the DEIs work well for them. But for outsiders walking into the door of a company, like, what's crazy is this, is that, say I sell widgets, and I'm a white guy, or, who sells widgets, and I go to, or even say like hot dogs or something like that. And I go to one of these sports teams. Yeah. I'm like, hey, man, I got the best hot dogs here. I make them in Duval. They're amazing. Someone's going to send me over as someone who sells hot dogs to a procurer of hot dogs to see, like, man, are your hot dogs good, bad, indifferent? What should we do? But a lot of times when you're black, they come in and they're like, oh, you need to go talk to DEI. These guys ain't experts in sales and marketing or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the black, man, I'm telling you, I've seen so many business pitches just die because I'm black, they got me talking to the DEI team who knows nothing about sales, nothing about marketing, nothing about the products that I'm selling, but it's only just because I'm black. And it goes sideways, man. Right. And so many businesses, we actually are at a disadvantage because of DEI.
And again, that's probably another segue into risk and reward around this, because when I would see that, I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to this group. My question has to do with marketing. I want to talk to the head of marketing. Yep. I want to talk to that team. Dollars are dollars, whether it's a black dollar come from a black person or a white person or an Asian person, right? You're going to do that. And I would say real quick, another kind of risk and reward opportunity that came out of the planning board. I was on it for almost 6 years. And I want to say during my 4th year, the Snohomish County Airport Commission was rebirthed after not being around for a while. And they, had 100 applicants. They picked 12. I was one of the 12. And I was the only black person and only 2 women in the whole group. And I will say the airport director at the time, who's now the airport director at SeaTac or C, he was very direct with me. And he said, one of the reasons why I put you in the running, he's because we need to have voices like yours around the table. And I said, cool. And so I got picked, and of course I got those looks again, because just about everyone on that commission had some kind of airport background. I didn't. But I quickly showed them what my value was, because there was 2 missions for that commission when it came back in 2018, 2019. One was to usher in the new commercial airport, Payne Field. Right. And the second was to do a very overdue why am I forgetting the name of this? But it's where you do the land surveying for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Wow. And so everyone was excited about that. But when it came up to do the land use piece of it, no one knew what it was. No one had any idea what it involved. So I raised my hand and I said, may I explain it to the group? I was the only person that understood it. And after that, they're like, okay, we're going to make you vice chair. And I became chair once it started to happen. And you're dealing with the FAA. You're dealing with all these different groups to do this planning. around the environmental planning around all of this. So I was able to leave a mark there as it concluded, and I stepped off of that. But then that also got me appointed to now the state level of the Washington Commercial Aviation Work Group. And we have a meeting on Wednesday. And that group was put together with airport directors from around the state, other community members, other business members to talk about how to incorporate multimodal transportation to and from the airports and around the state. So again, I never planned on those things happening or having that part of the trajectory, but it's been beneficial to be able to sit in those spaces where, again, I'm the only one or one of the few, but hopefully others that are watching and starting to pay attention when it does pertain to them go, hey, I see someone that might be able to relate to what I'm going to share in my 3 minutes of public comment.
Right.
So,
no, I mean,
comes with it.
I get it, and like I said, I used to be that on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that I'm dealing with, man. We're really, well, I say we, maybe I know it's at least me, but even as a company, man, we're dealing with buyer's remorse of buying in to a Seattle in 2020 that really don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And for committing so much into, like, man, people, this city is, this is the one thing about Seattle. I had some clip that went viral, man, and with a few, but it's different here. That, like, a lot of times people who don't have your best interest in out there for you, but they've mastered your vernacular. And they can talk to you in such a way that makes you think that, like, they're with it and go team and everything else.
Yeah.
They don't have the best interest of us.
Right.
That's there. And, in other places in America, people are just real straightforward. Like, yeah, I don't care about you or yourself. And you just know. You don't waste any time. I think that'd be the biggest thing, is a waste of time sometimes. And I'm sure you bumped into that. You've said you've had to leave some places.
I've left places. I've made some conscious decisions over the past couple of years of where I want to put my time and my energy. And I think what's been different is that usually if I'm ready to go, I would just kind of go. But I made my position made known why I was leaving a particular group, because I was exhausted, because you have me here. You're saying you're listening to me, but then you go and do the complete opposite. But you still want to say that I'm here and I'm a part of this. I'm not a part of it if you're not taking into consideration what I'm bringing to the table. I don't want to just be the check mark on a box and say, okay, we diversified. We got to. Or
if you're not the check mark, then you're the pack mule and the workhorse.
Yes.
In this black woman, additional labor, extra. What I'm saying?
No, absolutely, and it can get lonely from both sides. Either having our community not understanding why I or somebody else is doing those things, so you're not necessarily in those same spaces with them a lot, or you're on that other side and you're like, it's just me, and sometimes it just feels like, why am I doing this again? But then I see the end result, or have someone come up to me and talk to me, even with my social media content stuff, where I just do it for me. If people see it, great. But to walk around and have somebody say, you know what, you don't know me, but I just want you to know that I follow you and I watch this, and I wouldn't have known about this if you hadn't been there to talk about it and cover it. So that's the reward for me. And that's kind of where I am in life now.
Well, that's great. I'm happy that you're being rewarded, and you find the reward. It's difficult enough to show up. It just, even in our own community, around our own people, it's difficult. I mean, it takes a lot of stuff. We look at Deontay Damper,
right,
and we're always amazed. I mean, it's a constant show up,
yes,
constantly being there, and a lot of times, even though it's familiar faces, it's hostile environment there too. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so to go and to show up in other spaces, in other places, I acknowledge that, and I think that it is important, and I think that it does take a a sense of courage and bravery, because there is the other layer.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is most people who sign up for some commission or anything, and I'm not downplaying when I say some commission or a board or run for office, you're always going to get the people who are like, oh, who's this person?
Yes.
So that's to be expected. Unfortunately, though, a lot of times being black, it's like all your qualifications come in, and these guys on the right ran this whole DEI and thing, man, into the ground to where it's like questioning anybody. Somebody's like, oh, I don't want to fly in a plane with black pilots. It might, are they DEI pilots? Is it DEI pilot? It be that layer.
Yes. And it's irritating. And it's one of the reasons why I have stepped away from certain things at this point in my life. But what I had to learn from myself is that whatever I'm going to do going forward, I'm doing it because I want to do it, not because I'm trying to necessarily set an example for others anymore. And if I'm doing it for me and I get some enjoyment out of it, great. But if I'm not going to get anything out of it and it's going to be more harm than good or more trouble for me than good, then deuces.
Right.
I'm doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's real deal. I want to take a few minutes here, though, and I'll also put this on the flip side,
sure.
Because some of these are heavy burdens.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you flip that into self-care?
I tell people I'm an extroverted introvert, meaning I love what I do, which means I have to be out and about. But when I go home, the blackout curtains are closed. I'm done. I'm not talking on the phone. I'm not doing anything. And so it really has been a sense of just making sure that I prioritize me without feeling guilty. I had to learn over the past couple of years, especially going through my illnesses, was, selfishness is a form of self-care. Yeah. I'm going to be selfish with my time. I'm going to be selfish with my energy. I'm going to be selfish with where I spend money and other things that might help others. I can make those decisions and I'm not going to feel guilty about it anymore. Because if I don't take care of me, how can I expect somebody else to?
Yeah, that's dope. Our good friend Sean Good,
yes,
was saying something similar not too long ago. That it's like, yeah, man, you got to pour into yourself. Dorothy Pounds, who was Dorothy Dandridge, is sister. These guys relate. Anyway. But Dorothy Pound used to live right here in Bellevue, and she used to say that it's like, man, you can't give from an empty cup.
You cannot.
You know what I'm saying? Man, get that cup overflowing.
But not to feel guilty about, I need to serve myself before I can serve you. But there is a condition out there that has been put upon us that we've accepted. Is that, if you're going to do this, you need to do all these other things. You got to do it, 10 times more than the next person, which at times is true.
Yeah, what Sean Good was saying, a lot of that is performing for others.
Exactly. And that's where I had to get to.
Instead of being present for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an era that's taken over us over at Converge. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got about a minute and a half here. Is how can people catch up with you? Anything coming up at the opera? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm on all the major social medias at Alicia in Edmonds. So ALICIAINEDMONDS, because I'm Alicia.
Don't be trolling.
Yeah. I've learned the power of the mute button as well. So the trolls are always there. The opera's got some great stuff coming up. We have the opera camps for youth happening this month and next month. We're getting ready for our new season, which is going to include a performance around Frida and Diego Rivera. Salome is coming back. La Boheme is coming back. And we're going to do some fun stuff. One of the things that we did earlier this year for Carmen, one of the performances we did a furry night, which actually went amazingly well. And so I think we're going to do another one. I think, quote, think. Because opera's supposed to be for everyone.
Yeah, they've been pushing that. There you go. Opera for furries, too.
Yeah. So, we had a great time, and I think we're going to do it again. But otherwise, I would say that, watch what's going on with the Sports Commission as well. Where, they're trying to do more community events that are free for people to come to, like they've been doing with the Pacific Place Soccer City. Right. That was the thing. So there's a lot of great things coming up and to do, and just follow my socials, and you'll know what's going on.
All right. Alicia Crank, Man, quite literally a woman around town, man. I'm from the Seattle Sports Commission, the Seattle Opera. You're active up there in Edmonds. I already know you've got your consulting firm. You're a big time sports fan. You're at like every Torrent game and crack in. You've been part of all the FIFA stuff.
Sports has been therapy for me. That's been a form of self-care too.
There you go. That's your self-care.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this 1 hour here on the Mother's Justice Show was a little bit of self-care for you.
It was.
Too.
I always enjoy connecting with you, Big O. So thanks for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. Before we get out of here, big shots to our producer Eric.
Hey, Eric.
And co-founder Eric, both in the building. You can make sure and follow everything that I'm doing at Omari Saul, OMARISAL. And also go to whereweconverge.com and hit that donate button. Yep. Until next week at 2 p.m. Peace.